This should be a fun video. We'll take a look at expensive, highly celebrated audio plugins and see how we can recreate them using free plugins. For example, we'll recreate Gold Clip, Seventh Heaven Pro Reverb, Saturn II, and more. Then we'll A/B the original plugin with the free plugins, which I'll also link in the description so that you can compare the two. If you like the results and you haven't already purchased these plugins, these quick setups could save you almost $1,000. So let's spend some time recreating expensive plugins with free plugins. Starting off, let's recreate Gold Clip with free plugins. So Gold Clip is a great clipper plugin. People gravitate toward it since it sounds a lot smoother than most other clippers. This comes down to oversampling and an EQ that the plugin introduces. So recreating the modern box tone, the modern clipper with moderate modern gold settings, and some of the alchemy effect isn't too tricky, and it could be done with 2 free plugins. Now notice that these settings boost some of the low frequencies and dip the highs. Also, the alchemy setting is dynamic. With the ZL equalizer, although any dynamic EQ would work, I'll use a couple of bell filters to emulate the dips in the highs. I'll also introduce a low shelf up to around 2 kHz that boosts only about a half a dB. Now to emulate the alchemy effect, I'll use a dynamic high shelf and attenuate very subtly, only when the highs are loud enough, which in this case meant the threshold was around -22 dB. As for the low pass filter, oversampling is going to introduce this, so I don't need to set up this filter using the EQ. For the clipping portion, I'll use Free Clip by Ven Audio and select the quintic function. This is nearly identical to the behavior of Gold Clip's modern clipper shape. The gold function is just maximization, so I could use a free maximizer to do this. However, I could accomplish something very similar by increasing the input of Free Clip by a small amount. A 0.7 dB increase of Free Clip's input matched a 0.5 dB increase of Gold Clip's gold function. Now, Gold Clip's oversampling function scales with the sampling rate. So for this 96 kHz session, I'll use 4x oversampling on Free Clip to match Gold Clip's settings. Lastly, I'll match the output level. So let's take a listen to this A/B. We'll listen to Gold Clip first and then the free setup that I've shown here. I'm also going to use LUFS meters on both tracks, just so you can see that loudness variations aren't affecting what sounds better. Next up, let's recreate Seventh Heaven Pro with a stock convolution plugin. So Seventh Heaven is my favorite reverb plugin. It uses impulse responses of the Bricasse EM7, and then it offers some additional controls to adjust the sound. It's excellent, but it's really expensive. Having used this plugin for like hundreds of hours when mixing, I have to admit that any regular impulse response of the unit sounds just about as good, if not better. Free EM7 impulse responses could be found online, downloaded, and imported into your DAW's stock convolution reverb plugin. Then adjust the wet signal until it's blended how you want. Admittedly, scrolling through the various impulse response files can be tedious, but if you narrow it down to some of your favorites, it's really not too much of a hassle. If you need to adjust the decay length, the frequency response, the pre-delay, or any other parameter, most free convolution plugins are going to let you do this. I could even reverse the reverb in this plugin, which is something that I couldn't do in Seventh Heaven Pro. The CPU is lower, the sound is slightly more transparent, at least in my opinion, and of course it's free. So let's listen to both on the same segment of an acoustic guitar. I'll use the same default large chamber preset, but I'm not going to adjust any of the settings other than the wet-dry. The results have very minuscule variations, but again, I think the impulse response actually sounds slightly better. Real quick, if you haven't already, join the Sage Audio membership and get 5 mastering credits per month with your dedicated mastering engineer, 5 one-on-one mixing feedback credits per month, and unlimited access to our in-depth mixing and mastering courses and thriving community. Go to sageaudio.com or use the link in the description. Next up, let's recreate Saturn II with free plugins. Now what makes Saturn II special is the modulation. There are a lot of other multiband saturators, but few that let you link the incoming ADSR to a parameter. So let's say I want to cause more distortion to the transient of a vocal. I'll select the algorithm, increase the drive, and then I'll create an envelope follower. At this point, I could switch it to transient mode and link it to the drive dial. To create a very similar sound, I could first create a send from the vocal and then make that send pre-fader. On the corresponding auxiliary track, I'll insert ZL equalizer with a dynamic band, causing expansion. I'll need to set a quick attack, a moderate release, and then carefully lower the threshold to achieve expansion only during the transients. Then I could use this free GSAT Plus plugin and select the classic mode for tape, crisp for tube, or just experiment until one works well for the source material. Once the saturation is dialed in, I'll copy ZL equalizer and insert it after the saturator. Instead of expanding, I'll attenuate the range whenever the transient hits. So in short, we've created a dynamic emphasis-de-emphasis setup that causes the transient to become more saturated. Since the bus is pre-fader, we could then adjust the level of both tracks to get a good blend between the clean and the saturated signal without lowering the input for the saturator. Granted, this setup doesn't cover everything that Saturn II could do with envelopes, mid-side processing, etc., but with some extra routing, you could accomplish very similar processing. Let's listen to the A-B. I'll ensure that the loudness is matched so that you could focus on the timbre. They're not exact, but they're incredibly close.
May have been a bit of trouble, think it was impossible. May have been a bit of trouble, think it was impossible.
Last up, let's recreate the wide function of the Weiss MM1. So I picked the wide function since it's the most complex of the algorithms. Everything else is just maximization with some compression that varies in amplitude and the knee respectively. The wide function separates the signal into mid and side channels, causing dynamic expansion whenever the mid image is attenuated. Doing this with free plugins is pretty straightforward. In some DAWs, you could use a stock mid-side matrix. In Logic, it's easier for me just to duplicate the track and use the free plugin MSED to solo the mid image and the side image. Now once the mid and the side images have been separated onto separate tracks, I'll use the free plugin JS Inflator, which is a one-to-one copy of the Oxford Inflator. I'll use identical settings on each image to emulate how the MM1 maximizes both equally before it splits the signal. A close match is a positive curve with 100% of the effect and the split band setting enabled. That said, if you want less maximization, you could always lower the amount. Then, insert a compressor on the mid-image channel and achieve 1 to 2 dB of attenuation. This mimics how the MM1 attenuates the mid-image and subtly expands the stereo width by making the center image quieter relative to the side. Now, this setup gives you the option to increase the mid or side channel faders to adjust the overall stereo width, something that's not available with the MM1 plugin. Now, this seems a little complex at first, but it's really easy to do once you've set it up once or twice. Also, quick side note, this setup could be combined with the dynamic EQ, emphasis, de-emphasis from the last chapter if we want to recreate Saturn II's mid-side processing. So let's take a listen to the MM1 and then the free plugins. Let me know if one sounds better to you. As I mentioned earlier, if you haven't already, join the Sage Audio membership and get 5 mastering credits per month with your dedicated mastering engineer, 5 one-on-one mixing feedback credits per month, and unlimited access to our in-depth mixing and mastering courses and thriving community. Go to sageaudio.com or use the link in the description.